BYD suffers share crash after it's forced to drop prices of 22 models in China, but could be great news for pricing in the UK. Nissan announced a huge boost for EV manufacturing in the UK, up in Sunderland to build the new Leaf, Qashqai and Duke EVs. And Point rebrands and launches a new home charging scheme with a heavily discounted home charger and offers to pay you up to £170 per year to charge at home. But is it all too good to be true? We select the good, the bad and the ugly viewer comments. We provide a roundup of UK EV public charging prices and reveal the progress of the Fantasy EV virtual stock portfolio. Well, let's get going. And don't forget to subscribe if you like the content. After a stunning quarter in 2025, particularly in Europe, where BYD overtook Tesla sales, the results from its home market in China were rather the opposite, resulting in them having to make serious cuts into the price of their EVs and PHEVs. On the face of it, the cuts would be good for the UK, meaning that with their baby model, the Seagull, it would be selling for the equivalent of £6,100, making it by far the cheapest EV on sale here, if we discount the Citroën Ami and other such quadrupeds. Well, that would put even the Leapmotor's T03 to shame at £16,000. But then we learned that all those who stated that the Seagull would never gain safety approval in the UK were correct, but also wrong at the same time. Correct, they couldn't sell it here, but wrong, they made a few changes and suddenly could. The price cuts were forced on them when their dealers reported an increase in stock equal to about half a month's supply, and that was mostly older models. Now that kind of makes the US dealer stock position look terminal, with many dealers holding large stocks of even 2023 models that remain unsold, the rest are 2024 models. Few have any space or appetite for taking 2025 models without some massive support, read subsidies or payments from the manufacturers. Most US dealers would give their right arm for a stock level of half a month. Or put another way, many would be able to stay in business at that level. BYD had big plans to set up manufacturing in Mexico and use that as a springboard to sell their EVs directly into America. Well, that came to an abrupt halt because even the US manufacturers, like Ford and GM, can't sell their EVs made in Mexico into the States without massive tariffs. Well, that does raise the question as to how the Chinese saw a massive 79% growth in Europe during April if they face EV tariffs currently around 28% and still sell lower than the home manufacturers with zero tariffs. Anyway, the shares took a real tumble, but like all media headlines, that headline was almost complete lies. Yes, the shares dropped, but from a record high of around 400 renminbi per share after a continued growth through 2025 to date, and the crash took them down to 360. Anyone who bought shares before February will still be seeing a very nice, healthy profit. Well, the Seagull might be no more, but the Dolphin Serve is definitely not. That's a larger version of the Seagull with many extras, and that is definitely heading this way for sale in the UK. It is, in their own words, their first proper car with specs most would recognise on a range of up to 200 miles. It is expected to be priced at £15,000 when it arrives. By the way, shares in other EV makers in China also fell, but they never got a mention, of course. And it's all based on the fear of lower profits, but all have since bounced back. I don't know what it is about North East and Sunderland in particular, but the automakers love it. Toyota has just announced that they are moving the production of the Toyota Corolla petrol and hybrid versions to the North East, from where they will send them across to the US. It's amazing how quick they can move when they want to, as obviously they believe that the UK will get lower or zero tariffs from old Trumpy than Europe, which is still heading for a Chinese-style tariff war. But alongside Toyota, we now have Nissan announcing a brand new factory in, well, guess where? Sunderland, on the site of an old, unused Nightingale hospital. Remember them? COVID and all that? Well, it will now be removing the beds and installing the robotics to make the new Leaf, Duke and Qashqai EVs. Yes, the future is EV, and the government was instrumental in getting Nissan and Jatco together. Well, Jatco, they make the drivetrains for the Nissan. That's the EV equivalent of a sort of engine gearbox, drive shaft and all that stuff. And they start with a £50 million kitty, making this the biggest investment in an EV, and part of Nissan's EV36 plan for this flagship £1 billion hub in Sunderland for EVs, batteries and EV tech. The battery revolution is run by Envision AESC and promises great things. Envision is the original battery manufacturer in the UK, making the batteries for the Leaf since 2012. I bet you didn't know that. We had our own battery factory 13 years ago, and almost all Leafs since then have had batteries made in the UK. Now they're moving on to the next gen batteries that they say offer far more. Well, Nissan obviously claimed bragging rights with their Leaf. It was one of the first EVs on the roads in the UK, and this move is aimed to build on that success and experience to make the next generation of EVs and make the batteries even better and the cars more exciting. The Leaf really was the pioneer back in the day, remains a popular car to this day, just a bit dated, hence the refresh model. We lead the world in some areas, just not enough. Many are not quite sure what to make of Pod Point. Most of us recognise the name on their chargers, particularly in supermarket car parks, but they claim only 9,200 chargers, making them one of the smallest CPOs. They're also known for destination charging, working with companies to offer a turnkey installation that can cost the company absolutely nothing at all. But lately they've changed. Well, it's not only the name, it's now called Pod, but also drifted into home charging. And they advertise a standard installation 7 kilowatt home charger for £849 and claim 90% of all houses qualify for that standard installation. But now they've gone even further. If you agree to leave your EV plugged in at home for a certain number of hours when you're not using it, you can now join their Pod Drive scheme. For £40 a month, a one-off admin fee of £99, you get a premium Pod Point charger supplied and installed, plus you get up to 7,500 miles paid for. Yeah, it's true. They do not charge you, although obviously they charge your EV, but they pay you after every charging session at the rate of 2.3 pence per mile, meaning that an average EV with, say, 3.5 miles per kilowatt hour gets 8.05 pence per kilowatt hour. That works out at £172.50 per year income, or more if your EV is more efficient. Well, on first glance, I rejected this. In an interview recently with Octopus, the average EV driver only charges once a week and each session costs only £3 or £4. So £40 a month seems ludicrous. You'd be paying £480 a year to get back £172.50. Who'd do that? But the deal is actually a bit more than that. The charger and installation is free. No £1,000 having to be stumped up for the supply and install. The £40 a month is an effective lease deal for 3 years on your home charger. Factor that in, this is heading towards free charging. But it all depends on your mileage. Do only 2,000 miles, this will make no sense. Do 7,500 or more, and it might. I applaud them for this effort. It might not work for you, or indeed anyone. But we're starting to see huge innovations in home, workplace and destination charging. This is the growth area for the future. I fear our government has not yet spotted this in their drive to install a total of up to 480,000 public chargers. Technology is changing the whole EV experience, and most have not even caught up with how charging an EV is different to filling a car with petrol. If we look back a decade, most EVs only had a range of about 100 miles, probably less. And even the better ones only got nearer 200 miles. The average EV on a day out at the weekend had to find somewhere to charge to get there and back. Ultra-rapid chargers are designed specifically for this, and we need a load, which we now have. But we also have EVs now with 250-mile range as standard. 400 miles plus is quite common. And hardly anyone on a day out at the weekend or bank holiday will do anywhere near 200 miles for a return trip. What are you going to do? Drive down to Cornwall for the day? Yeah, don't be silly. For me, day out, Blackpool is 40-mile return, the Lake District, 100-mile return, Peak District, also a 100-mile return, and a really long day out would be North Wales at 200 miles return. I suspect all of you have got similar places to go to, and all of you will do way less than 200 miles, probably nearer 100, and that can be done there and back easily within the range of a modern EV. Even the iconic Renault 5e has a range of nearly 250 miles for the long-range version. What we now find we're needing is destination charging. This could be your Untitled and a 3-pin plug, or it could be a car park overlooking the sea with a public fast charger. Just a quick, cheap top-up, if needed, where we get to. It does throw the equation back to home charging, particularly those that cannot charge at home. And here there's fantastic innovation happening. Companies like Trojan Energy. You haven't been forgotten. For those with street front houses, but who cannot install a pavement gully because of council rules, you can get one of these. The cable runs underground from your home to the curbside and the charger is buried underground. Nothing shows above pavement level. To activate it, you get your charger wand out of the boot, insert it, and it locks. You plug your EV into that wand and that locks. Plug your EV in and you can now charge at cheap overnight rates on your home domestic tariff while parking in the street. If you can find a go-ahead council like Liverpool City Council, their leader, Liam Robinson, who we met up with recently, the rates will be on the cheap side. Yes, councils can dictate the rate for street charging. There's a lot going on. Looking at reader comments, we get to the good, the bad and the ugly. And these are comments we received recently. For the good, we liked what Binman Blog said. The future's not yet here, but it is starting to look really exciting. I just wish far more people would see it as an exciting time instead of trying to hang desperately onto the past. Luddites come to mind. Remember them? On the bad, we get a number along the same lines, all looking for the reason something will not work so we can stay firmly in the past. On a recent video, I covered using part of the EV battery as a grid storage device. And if in time 1 million or so did this, it would be bigger than the current national grid. We would, in effect, actually have our own grid made up of individual cars, charging up at times of excess capacity instead of the grid turning off solar and wind farms and then pumping it back into the grid at peak times. DIY-UK, who claims we would need a new excuse. Sorry boss, my battery's flat. Well, obviously you never got to the end of the video because, of course, you never use your whole battery. You allocate only that bit of the battery that you don't need, the spare bit. Others try to throw a spanner in the works by worrying about destroying your battery by using it more. Now again, they seem to be searching desperately for an excuse to reject the future. The average EV LFP battery is good for about 3,000 to 5,000 cycles, with a complete charge from 0% to 100% and then back down to 0% being one cycle. An average EV does 250 mile plus, so it's good for at least 750,000 miles. And because most drivers drive less than 10,000 miles a year, are you going to keep your EV for 75 years? Crazy. Well, on the ugly, we just get the really negative ones for whom the world is evil and bad, and EVs are just a complication. Talking about councils painting double yellow lines in front of EV chargers. Well, actually, now I think about it, I remember in Truro a decade ago at Trafalgar Roundabout where the council workers came and they installed a fabulous Christmas decoration scene on the middle of the roundabout with wireframe reindeers, Father Christmas sleighs and Christmas trees all lit up, proper handsome. But the next day, the Parks and Gardens workers arrived, dismantled it in order to mow the grass. OK, 4CDS 14, you might have a point, but lighten up, we have one life. This is not the rehearsal. And to prove that point, here are two comments that appeared together in our feed, showing different ends of the spectrum. J Wolf, grateful for our coverage, positive about the future, and helpful comment to consider. Thanks, Jay. While Northern Solely KTF just drops back onto the outdated stereotypical myths and lies and blames a bad experience he or she had on an EV lease when it would have also happened on a nice car. Takes all sorts. Free choice is not always a good thing. We do need legislation in certain areas for our own good and protection. I would not be happy in a society portrayed in the film The Purge that allowed a period of time on a regular basis where all crimes are allowed, no one's punished, claiming, gets it out of people's systems. Maybe that's a step too far. EV charging prices have undergone a massive change, starting with InstaVolt, which is now panicking, as 43 out of 44 chargers at the Winchester hub are currently available. Read, not being used. They've now set the price of its super flagship hub to 54 pence per kilowatt hour right through to the end of August. No peak, no off-peak, it's 24/7, 54p, or down to 50p if you use their app. Well, this launched 2 weeks ago and still nobody's using them. Tesla, on the other hand, have most chargers at high capacity, most of them in use at any one time, and at the Trafford Centre it's pretty much full all day. Right now it's showing all 18 in use with a 5-minute wait, and the rate for a non-Tesla is 51p. But at other locations where there is not such high demand, Tesla has simply scrapped the peak and off-peak concept, dropped their prices, now offers 50 pence per kilowatt hour, 24 hours a day, 365 days a year. Check out our monthly pricing guide for full details. And finally, we come to our fancy EV share portfolio. It's looking quite healthy. We've now got 5 shares and our profit or loss is showing a healthy £531.47p profit. We're now a month into the year-long project, looking good. There are 2 shares I've considered this week, both very much in the news. I am tempted to add more Tesla shares because on the 1st of June, Tesla is supposed to launch their RoboCab without any driver, without any steering wheel or pedals, and that will be in Texas. The markets are not yet fully priced in this impact it will have if it's successful, but it might not be. And if it doesn't launch, or if it's not successful, shares are going to drop. So no decision on Tesla shares today, as it's a total gamble. Xiaomi, by the way, is not such a gamble. Their shares have been very unexciting for some time, but they're gradually moving away from the smartphone business and they're launching their first EV. Eat your heart out, Apple. I believe this will be a success and the company is already well known. So a $1,000 investment here this month is a safer choice. Well, that brings us to the end of News Desk. Thanks for watching. As always, big thank you to our members, both YouTube and Patreon. I'm Dave.